Welcome back, America. We're here with our friend Leo Terrell, civil rights attorney, Fox News contributor, dear friend of mine. Leo Terrell, you were also a teacher. You saw what is and has been taking place at UCLA and all over the country. As civil rights attorney, the idea that the federal government does not have enough authority, does not have enough police state power with the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the ability to monitor, the ability to find the funding sources, deal with the funding sources, use domestic terrorism statutes. The idea that the FBI sits on the sideline while we have this counter-revolution of Marxists and Islamists going on, destroying our educational system, and the idea that the Attorney General says nothing effective. The President of the United States blurts out a few comments, but nothing effective. That nobody is directed in the federal government to address what's taking place in this country. We have never seen anti-Semitism, Jew hatred in America like we've seen before. What do you make of this?
First of all, let me be very clear. Let's not use the First Amendment to describe the criminal anti-Semitic conduct that happened at UCLA, a school that I attended law school, which is a national embarrassment, and throughout the entire country. Listen, there is enough federal law and protection that is not being used by the Biden administration. Why? Because they're playing politics. Let me just mention something I'm sure you know. Title VI, Civil Rights Act. I'm old enough to remember when black kids were protected by the federal government in the 50s and 60s. Joe Biden has abandoned Jewish Americans throughout this country. Jewish Americans deserve the same protection as any American citizen in this country, but he's playing Michigan politics. How dare they allow these criminals to dominate these universities and then be released on the street? Where's the federal charges? Where's the Department of Education? Cut off the funds. Cut off every nickel and dime of federal taxpayer dollars to these Ivy League schools and colleges that promote Hamas and the Palestinians over there. Where's the FBI investigation? Where's Merrick Garland? Where's the power of the federal government? Where are the federal marshals to escort Jewish American kids to school? Nothing. The federal government and Joe Biden have given these terrorists the green light to attack, harm, damage, deny Jewish Americans to exist in this country. It is embarrassing and shameful.
Leo, you and I aren't old enough to remember, at least to have read anyway, how Dwight Eisenhower sent the military to ensure that little black kids could go to school with little white kids. When Orville Faubus was standing in the doorway of that school, and high schools too, Joe Biden is a pathetic excuse for a president of the United States. He didn't order any action by the federal government in that pathetic speech that he gave. He didn't say, I'm going to send the U.S. Marshals down there, as you point out, to make sure those Jewish kids can go to school, and you better get the hell out of the way. He didn't condemn the universities, the presidents of the universities, who are now negotiating with these Hitler youth to boycott Israel, to ensure that they have Palestinian professors, certain number of seats set aside, and all kinds of things of that sort. I have to believe, Leo Terrell, that he supports this. His party's partly funding it. Democrat billionaires through dark money, Soros, the Tides Foundation, Arabella, all these entities on the left that are funding Joe Biden's campaign. It's worse than silence when you say something that means nothing. What do you make of this?
He's given them the green light. In that situation you mentioned, Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957, federal marshal sent by Eisenhower. 1962, federal marshal sent to University of Alabama. I mean, let's be clear. There is power and authority and deterrence in the federal government. But let's talk about the money. Follow the money. The Democrats are compromised. Joe Biden compromised. Universities compromised by dark money, by George Soros money, by the Rockefeller Foundation money. That is why they won't say a word. And it's not just Joe Biden. It's the Democrats in California, in New York, crickets. And they're allowing Jewish Americans to be harmed, to be intimidated. In my lifetime, in your lifetime, this is happening in America. We're not talking about Munich 1939. We're talking about America 2024. There needs to be a complete overhaul in that White House immediately this upcoming election, because we have to protect Jewish Americans. If not, they are in harm's way.
I thought it was pretty funny, Leo Terrell, when Biden talks about he's there to protect free speech. Tell me, was he there to protect free speech when his attorney general issued a memo threatening parents? Is he there to protect free speech when his Department of Justice is rounding up grandmothers who dare to protest against abortion at abortion clinics? Is he there to protect free speech when his FBI and other instrumentalities of the federal government were setting up a disinformation committee and putting the shoulder on social platforms to silence free political speech? Was he there for the First Amendment when his FBI was secreting itself into the various Catholic churches? The idea that this guy stands for the First Amendment or any of the Bill of Rights is a damnable joke, is it not?
Absolutely. And if it wasn't for shows like yours and Fox News, I'll say this to you every time I'm on this show, he is protected by 90% of the media. I don't want to mention any names: CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times. They protect him. If we don't have shows like yours and Fox News, this country wouldn't know the truth. The truth is not being told to the American public, but it's getting out there. And we got to keep pounding the truth to the American people, because they don't know, Mark. They don't know the truth.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.